All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Plane Sports. Today we're going to preview this upcoming Ole Miss game, Oklahoma's second road game in the SEC. Not off to the hottest of starts with it into your inaugural year if you're Oklahoma, but you got to
Nice
hope
way to say
something
it.
changes here with the Latrell firing. Before we get into anything else, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Follow us on everything down in the description below. You guys know the drill. All right. Oklahoma is on the road to Oxford visiting Ole Miss. It's going to be interesting. This will be Finley's first weekend as the offensive coordinator and play caller for Oklahoma. Um, this the Ole Miss offense is good. They've made mistakes, but I mean, South Carolina was mistake prone, and with how easily we gave them a lead, I think it was tough to create anything there. Brandon, what is the hope here in your perspective? Because right now, as we are speaking, Oklahoma is 20.5 point underdogs.
Yeah. Score two offensive touchdowns, I think would be the hope. You go zero touchdowns against Texas. You get one in late third quarter against South Carolina. So, the last 8 quarters of football, we're playing on one offensive touchdown. So you'd like to see any sort of spark from the offense. Granted, like just naturally, that's going to be everybody's first thing that they're going to want to see in this game is how different, if at all, does the offense look without Latrell now? Because Latrell's play calling has been sus. It got him fired. I think there's a new play caller in there. How involved is Kevin John's going to be now? I know he's been on staff all season, but now he's promoted to a co-coordinator role kind of type deal. So how involved is he? How much different does just the play design, the play calls look? Not sure they're going to be able to execute everything, but just how much different does it look? And what's crazy is this: if by some miracle they come out and we score 35 points on offense, we're going to be like, what the hell was happening all season? And why were we not? But whatever. But
Wishful thinking.
it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Cause I see the idea of it's like a 5 game audition, if you will, for Joe John. I've seen that tossed around on Twitter and people freak out. And I don't think that's really the case. I think, he was just the easiest guy mid-season to step over and take that role. I fully expect a full offensive coordinator search going into the offseason. But, there's 5 games. If the offense completely makes a 180 and they actually look like a very good offense by some chance, which, that's that's what we want, right? Is for the offense to look great. I don't see it. The expectations, the hopes is, I think 2 offensive touchdowns would be a big jump from what we've seen the past, 2 games of football. Kentucky was able to neutralize the Ole Miss offense. I think they kind of set a blueprint there. I'm sure Brent Venables will have a good plan defensively. We always have a good plan defensively, so that's. But if you realistically, if you're going to win this game, which I don't think anyone's picking us right now, you almost have to be perfect on defense, and that's a tall task against a very good offense.
Yeah. The Obviously the key here, and like it has been and probably will be for the rest of the year, is going to be how our defense performs. Offensively, I think you just got to hope that a spark was created for with this change, with Finley being the play caller. I agree with you. I don't think that much will actually change just because it's just basically the other side of the two-headed beast that we were supposed to have as offensive coordinators. Um, Maybe has a little bit of different philosophy in how he game plans. Which if that was the case, and again, like just something that could have been prevented, but at this point, it's like hindsight's 2020 sort of situation. um, the biggest thing offensively, other than scoring points, even if you don't score a lot, score 10 points offensively. That sounds really ridiculous saying, like now that I'm saying it out loud. But if you can score any points and keep time of possession, win that battle, I think you keep this defense in it. Obviously, you need to score more than 10 points. I don't think that there is a world where you keep this Ole Miss offense under that in a realistic game unless they just have the worst game of their season, which isn't out of the realm of possibility because they have shown that they aren't what everyone expected to be. Preseason, they were kind of one of those teams where, with all their additions through the transfer portal, you expected them to be somewhere in like that Texas, Georgia, where they are currently at. They're more like Bama, where, you know, 5 years ago, that would have been great. Freaking last year, if you compared Ole Miss to Bama, that would have been great. But today, comparing Ole Miss to Bama is kind of just a ship that doesn't really know its direction with their hopes. They can still make the playoffs. That's still very much possible with this 12-team format. Just the hopes of winning a championship are obviously not there. Anything happens in playoff sports, so we'll see what that looks like come that time of the year. But if you can win time of possession and don't turn the ball over, I think you have a legitimate shot to at least keep the game close and kind of raise some hopes here for not just the team but the fan base. Um, Jackson Arnold's the biggest issue that we talked about whenever Latrell was the play caller and Jackson was the starting quarterback was it was a lot of RPO, and it was very evident that when Mike Hawkins came in, a lot of that RPO game kind of disappeared, if not completely went away. They went back to basics. If Finley can do something similar, go back to basics, maybe sprinkle in a little bit of RPO when you need it. Like at the end of the day, it was clear that he just wasn't ready for that complicated of an offensive scheme or play calling scenario. Keep it basic, and he proved in that South Carolina game that if you keep it pretty basic, he can make the read. This offensive line is still a gigantic problem, and it's not going to get fixed at all this season. I think that's one thing we do just have to go ahead and give up on. This offensive line sucks. It's not going to get fixed. Coach B, love him or hate him, for whatever reason, this year is just second guessing every move he makes week in and week out. You see a new starter every week, regardless of injury. Now they're all presumably healthy, and he still made a mix up in the line last week. So this unit sucks. You just have to hope Jackson Arnold doesn't get killed and hurt in that process, and that he can make some good throws throughout this. And who knows, maybe Deion Burks can come back. It seemed like he was close to coming back last week. If at any point there can be some actual updates on where Andrew Anthony is, if Jalil Farouk can at all come back this season, he might be one of those guys where he just takes a medical red shirt and hope you can bring him back for next season. Nick Anderson, again, at this point, I don't even know what his injury is, but if he can figure out how to come back, that would be nice. But something's got to happen here, and this Finley change might not be the best. And then I agree with you. I don't think it's a real audition, but spark some sort of hope into this program, because right now it looks like this may not even be a bowl eligible team come the end of the season.
Well, they've got to win at least one more. They've got to win at least one more SEC game. You know that we beat Auburn. You have to find another SEC win if you want to be if you want to be bowling this year. And it's there's really no easy games left on the schedule. The main game, obviously, I think you win that one, but you got to find one in the SEC if you want to go bowling. I do agree with you on controlling time possession. I think that's your best chance. Establish a run game if you can. Kind of bleed some cloud, get some points. Jackson Arnold make the throws when he has to. The offensive line, but they have to protect in order for that to happen, and that's we have not yet seen that really all season. I think it looked its best in the Auburn game, but even then it wasn't perfect. So I agree. I think that's your formula. Ole Miss, you mentioned they are a 2-loss team, but they're with 2 losses, you're playing for everything still. And Jackson Dart said it after the loss to LSU, they have to win out. I mean, that is their path to the college football playoffs. So they're really playing for everything right now, and they're well aware of it. I think maybe, this is wishful thinking as well, that they are coming off a bye. I don't know the rest of their schedule, how it looks out. But Oklahoma has not been a very good team. They've got Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, Mississippi State. So they're at Arkansas after us, but maybe they overlook us a little bit. Maybe they've already penciled in a win on their schedule just with how Oklahoma has looked this season, and then they kind of don't play as well as they can. And maybe that's a shot too, but these previews are just getting more and more depressing to do, because this season is it's not been how we want it to be. Obviously, the injuries really hurt the team. I think Seth Latrell was not a great play caller. There's been a number of issues with the team this season, but with 5 games left, and you are what you are at this point, and it's really not something that's going to be fixed until the offseason. So I mean, we're gonna have to get lucky. We're gonna have to run the ball. We're gonna have to get some takeaways on defense, and that's kind of your formula, unfortunately. And that's how it is. That's how it's going to be the rest of the way. Just an unfortunate season, but we will have next year again. Each preview means we're getting closer and closer to the offseason.
Yeah, and I think for the Sooners, the game starts really at the coin flip. And not that it doesn't for every other team, but I think with how Oklahoma is playing right now, with this version of Oklahoma, you need the coin to flip your way, and so that you can start on defense. If the other team wins the coin flip and they don't pick the Oklahoma offense going out first, they're making a gigantic mistake. That means something questionable is happening on that other side of the line, so you better hope you take advantage of it as the defense. But if Oklahoma can win the coin flip, you have to start with your defense. Let them set the tone. They've proven that, especially early in the game, they have made multiple three and out stops. They've created turnovers in those first few drives when they've got fresh legs, and it's been pretty clear in basically every loss and even in the win against Auburn. Like the offense just puts them behind and gets them a little too tired to maximize their abilities for the full game. If Oklahoma can capitalize on those opportunities that this defense has given them throughout the season, and I hope continues to give them, and giving them the ball in plus territory, just convert those to points, convert those to some sort of meaningful drive. It doesn't necessarily mean touchdown with how this offense looks. Bleed 3 or 4 minutes off the clock, get a field goal, get points on the board, and make the other offense run the whole field, not just 30, 40 yards, because that's when it usually starts backfiring on Oklahoma. If you look at every game Oklahoma's lost outside of the Texas game, that one they were just straight up were outplayed, both sides of the ball. But if you look at the Tennessee loss in this past game against South Carolina, the offense put the defense in a terrible spot and gave up big leads. And after that, it just was too hard for the defense to be able to do anything, because the opposing offense, their playbook opens up so much, and that makes it that much harder on Zach Alley and Brent Venables to really put the right guys in the right situations to make plays. You play a little bit more on your heels when you're playing that far behind. So that's going to be important. Capitalize on those key opportunities that the defense gives you and get points. Make meaning take time off the clock at the very least, even if you turn it over on downs at like the 10-yard line. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but even if you do, like, bleed 4 or 5 minutes off the clock. Don't be out there for a three and out and then hope your defense can create another turnover or three and out situation.
No, I mean I agree. I think the Auburn game is really your blueprint that we have to win. They were able to score 2 offensive touchdowns really on two big plays, and Jackson Arnold does have the ability to break the pocket and scramble a little bit. We saw in the Tulane game where, again, that Tulane first half, that was the only time this season where we looked like a real college football offense. Like it was clicking. We were moving the ball. Should have scored every possession. Obviously, that didn't work out, but I mean, it looked good, and the defense in turn looked good. That's a pretty sure a top 40 offense in the country in Tulane, and we really limited to them throughout the whole game. That was defensively limited them because the offense came out in the second half and looked like the same old offense. But 2 touchdowns, maybe a field goal or 2 on offense, that's 20 points. That sounds like a lot, but really that's 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals, and you can get it any way you can. The defense will help you out sometimes, I think, and that's kind of what you got to do, and hope the defense gets another score like they did against Auburn. But I mean, I think the encouraging thing is, the offense did look its best this entire season, with Arnold at the helm for one half, where it would actually look like a real college football offense. You hope we can get back to that. And that's really that's just your best chance right there is to look like a real offense again. And we've shown it for a half this season. So we've shown it for 2 quarters out of whatever we played, 16, 20 quarters, however many games we played. Yeah, that's your shot.
Well, and to talk about Ole Miss for a little bit here, because you mentioned it, they are coming off a bye week, and before their bye week, they lost in heartbreak fashion to LSU in overtime. Their offense played well. Obviously, not good enough for them to win, but Jackson Dart had 284 and a touchdown. Their running backs combined for uh, 149 on the ground, or 150, 154 on the ground total. Their starter, Ulysses Bentley, had 107 on 11 carries and a touchdown. Their backup had 42 on 14 carries. They had two wide receivers with over 100 yards. I'm pretty sure, yeah, they had three sacks, nine pass breakups. That team can play. You have to just you can't give up big opportunities. Um, I don't. I'm gonna go out there on a limb and I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I won't give my score prediction, but honestly, this seems like an uphill battle for Oklahoma to actually win the game. I don't think it's very likely, if at all. You just have to keep it close and make the offense look good. But this defense is good. Like I said, last game they had nine pass breakups, three sacks. And that was against a good offensive line with LSU. Yes, they've made their mistakes, but they're definitely much better than our offensive line right now. And then their defensive backs are getting their hand on the ball. They haven't recorded a pick six yet this season. Don't be the ones to let them do that. Um, and just try to limit their defensive line because they do have Walter Nolan transfer from A&M. Princely, not even going to try to pronounce his last name because it's complicated, but transfer from Florida. There's talent on that team. That their linebackers are good too. It's talented all over. They're just you can point to Lane Kiffin, you can point to just bad timing. They haven't been able to put it all together for every game they've played in, but they've at least had a chance to win uh, every game.
Yeah, no, I mean it's going to be a ball control game for us if we win, and you have to look like Kentucky did on defense. Kentucky did a great job against that offense. They held them to 17, got a couple takeaways. That's the formula. If you hold them to 17, I mean Kentucky only scored 20 points and won. That's literally that's what we're gonna have to do to win this game. Something like that. 23-20, 24-21. 21-17, something like that. It's going to have to be a lot of pressure on the defense, as is the whole season. You hope Arnold's not running for his life as much as he was in South Carolina, or Hawkins, whoever was back there was getting sacked right away, essentially, or running for their life. Yeah, I think we got sacked 5 or 6 times against South Carolina. We can't do that again. Ole Miss has the guys to do it, especially against this offensive line. I maybe a good screen game, something like that, just to, if they're going to pin their ears back and try to sack us all the time because our offensive line's so bad, beat them with a screen or something. You're going to have to hit some plays, some big plays to win this game, and maybe something like that. I'm with you though. I guess we'll save our score predictions for later in the week, but it's going to be an uphill battle. I don't think any of us are really feeling great about it.
Well, in a quick uh, update on the stat there, we were sacked 9 times
Yeah,
by South Carolina. You can't let that happen. We got
we
six
were that
sacks,
bad.
and I think if you had any team getting 6 sacks in any game, you were happy about that defensive line performance.
Oh
But
yeah.
when you give up 9 of them, that just kind of gets overshadowed because your defensive line doesn't get the respect it deserves because your offensive line just gave up nearly double digit sacks in a game. Um, we'll see. I think maybe Finley can have a better blocking scheme here. We're kind of running on a lot of hopes there for this offense because it hasn't given much. And Finley just has to be that guy. Even if he gets fired at the end of the year, which I think at this point is kind of inevitable. This is not an audition in my eyes. Like you can't keep him around no matter how he performs. It's like an interim coach in the NFL. Even if he gets you a couple wins here and there, like you got to go do a search. And I think that's what would be best for Brent Venables for this Oklahoma offense. Go out there and do a real search. Don't do another bullshit search like you did last offseason where you landed with Seth Luttrell. Go do a real one. If Finley is still the guy you want to hire, people probably won't be happy, but at least you did a search. I think that if you actually go search, though, you're going to find plenty of young, talented, and hungry offensive minds that would take the job gladly. and not have to land on your fallback plan, which would be Finley in this situation.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, I'd agree. I think the offseason we will perform a search for an OC. I don't think again. This is not really an audition. It was just the easiest plug and play for 5 games option you had. Hopefully Johns is more involved. I realize he's been on the staff all season. We got a couple of comments about that in the last video. And yeah, he's been there all season, but I don't, how much was he truly involved? I think he might be a little bit more involved now as a true co-OC and quarterback coach versus just an offensive analyst. And hopefully you move the ball a little bit. And, it's still any given Saturday, crazier things have happened in college football. So, I think I do believe somewhere down the road we'll grab an SEC win, maybe Missouri, maybe something. I think we'll grab one. I think we'll get to 6-6, but I don't know when. And then yeah, you move to the off season. But maybe we get some Sooner Magic on Saturday, and it'd be great to get back in the win column. It would make our Sunday recordings a lot happier.
It would definitely make them a lot easier to do, but we got to do them anyways. We will do this though. X factors. We've done them for the last few videos for these preview videos. For me, I'm gonna go first to give Brandon a second to think on it. X factor offensively is gonna be the quarterback. It's not the offensive line anymore. I think you've said it a couple times. I've said it a couple times, kind of hoping that something gets fixed there. Again, that unit is terrible. I don't. They suck, and no matter how you want to dice it, and say it's mean, they're terrible. They're not good. The quarterback just has to make quick decisions. I don't think we're gonna see a ton of offensive plays. The offensive line, like once in a blue moon, will have some decent blocking when the opposing defense rushes three, maybe two, because they can just drop back because this offensive line sucks. But give the quarterback, which I hope is Jackson Arnold, can make some good decisions. It's a simple game plan. I think there's a chance there for this offense to look good. Really, this offense looked decent in the last game. They're just overshadowed by the gigantic deficit they had to try to make up for. Um, Defensively, it's gonna have to be your cornerbacks. Something has to give here. Like they can't we can't put them in the same category as this offensive line because this defensive staff is too good. I think Jay Valai has recruited at a very high level, and the corners have to just get get it together. Whoever it is, I think Eli Bone played well. He has continued to play well and improve. So hopefully, they can figure it out in the pass game against this explosive offense. And we should be pretty familiar somewhat schematically with what they're going to run. Levy learned from this system before he came here, so they should have an idea of how this offense wants to operate more often or more than likely.
I was gonna say just the defensive backs for defense because I agree. This is a team that wants to pass first. This is where I mean, it's a Lane Kiffin run offense. They're going to air it out. Jackson Dart throws for almost 300 yards every game. So it's going to be a heavy pass attack, and that has been the weaker part of our defense, I think. So I think they're going to try to exploit that. So just the defensive backs in general. I mean, I agree. Eli Bowen's been fantastic. Peyton Bowen's been good. RSJ is good. Billy Bowman. We have the guys out there. Hopefully they have a good game plan. I'm sure they'll have a decent game plan for the pass attack. The defense is really never the big area that I worry about. Offensively, I'll go running backs, man, because like we talked about, we have to be able to control clock. We have to be able to run the ball, and those are the guys ultimately who are going to be doing it. Devontae Barnes, Taylor Tatum. Let's try to get. I mean, how cool would it be to see one of those guys go for 100 yards? That would just be huge. Who knows? You might be in the game if you can find a 100-yard rusher because then you're controlling the clock. You're doing something. An offensive line, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. I think, how cool would it be on Saturday if we went and saw Eugene Brooks and Eddie Pierre-Louis in the starting lineup? And obviously we're not in Norman every day with the team as they're practicing and stuff, but like how much worse can they be? And I understand they're freshmen, but get them some experience going into next season. Even if they get beat a couple times, it's not like the guys in front of them. Just, I think the fan base would be super stoked to see, a Eugene Brooks or EPL in the game. Just why not?
Yeah, and I think with your offensive line take, if you start those young guys, those freshmen, just stop playing transfers at all this season, you can at least give some hope for the future. Like, okay, they're gonna make their mistakes now, mistakes are going to happen, regardless of if they were young or experienced, because that's what we've seen all year. They hold, they give up giant loss plays for loss. At least they're freshmen, and you can give them an excuse of they don't have the experience, and that you hope that those bad experiences improve them in the coming years. Because if you play, three transfers, two older, experienced guys, like it clearly hasn't worked. Give your young guys a shot. Let them make their mistakes. Yeah, and you just got to live with it. Like that's kind of how that I think that is one of the biggest difference between the SEC and the Big 12 that we just have to adjust to. Like basically every SEC team when they recruit or they recruit and they'll play their young guys more often than not. Look at South Carolina. Like he's playing a lot of young guys. Alabama plays a lot of young guys now and with Nick Saban. Ole Miss did it when 2 years ago when Lane Kiffin really and the transfer portal kind of started helping them out a lot. LSU does it. Tennessee's doing it. We just for whatever reason want to bring in these transfers with experience, hope that they mesh together, get disappointed and frustrated when they don't, and then our freshmen are just kind of stuck in the weeds because they don't get the opportunities that maybe they should.
Yeah, yeah. I just what I'll say to that.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up for today's video. Obviously, not the most optimistic view for this game, but we are going to talk about it again once the injury report comes out later this week. Maybe there's a little bit of hope with a potential returning wide receiver or wide receivers, probably just one if we're going to be realistic, but we'll talk about that later in the week. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, follow us, and everything in the description down below. We appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you next time.